You ready, Chris?
Hold on a sec, Dan.
All right.
Nope. I was thinking about it.
Morning, Chris.
Morning, everybody. It's
Morning.
trying to load you. It really doesn't like my internet connection. Okay. We're now live on YouTube. So, Dan, go ahead.
All right. Very good. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is our Thursday, May 14th, 2020, CYMPO Technical Advisory Committee meeting. I'm Dan Cherry, Chair of the TAC for this calendar year. Allison, would you like to do a roll call, please?
Good morning, everyone. Start with Chairman Cherry.
Present.
Vice Chair Marbury.
Here, if you can hear me.
We can hear you. Member Hinks.
Who?
Ed?
Member Hinks, I see him.
I'm here.
Okay, we can hear you too. Member Davis.
He's still trying to get dialed in.
Good.
Member Mattingly. Member Mattingly appears to be
See him
absent.
yet.
Member Roth.
Here.
Member Winnis.
Present.
And our Prescott National Forest position is vacant, but we do have a quorum.
All right, very good. I would ask that those that are not speaking, if they could mute their microphones just to cut down a little on the background noise. And then if you need to speak, just remember to unmute. I'll try to work this so that people that need to speak, if you can just speak up, and I'll try to recognize you so that we don't have too much talking over one another. So with that, we'll move on to item number 2 on the agenda, which is consideration and possible action to approve the February 6th, 2020 regular meeting minutes of the TAC. Chris, anything you want to say about this?
Only if anybody has any corrections or modifications, let us know. Otherwise, move forward with approval.
Yep. Anybody have comments on the minutes from February 6th? I did look at them. I have no comments. If not, I'll accept a motion.
Also a long time ago.
Looking for a motion.
I move
This is
to
Frank. I'll make
accept
a
the
motion to
minutes
approve the
from-
minutes.
I had two. I heard two there. Ed, was
Second
that
from
one?
Ed.
Were you one of them there?
Yeah, I was one. I'll make the second.
All right. Who was that first there? Is that Frank?
Frank?
All right, Frank. So motion
Frank
made
was,
by Frank.
Yep.
Motion made by Frank, seconded by Ed Hanks. Any further discussion? I'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed to accepting the minutes? Thank you. That passes unanimously. I see Ian is on the line now.
Yep.
Can you hear us yet, Ian? We'll give him a moment.
Yeah. And so Dan, if we could, this worked out really well for the board meeting, for our votes on the other agenda items.
Do roll call.
Do a roll call vote,
Okay.
so we make sure we got everybody and people know who the heck is voting. Norm's in, or he's
All right.
coming in.
Very good.
It's very helpful.
All right. Let's move on to agency announcements and updates. I'll start with those that I know are here. Ed, you want to start?
Right now, we're preparing for our annual chip seal project, trying to get budget done, just trying to survive with the COVID-19 situation. But other than that, that's about it. We are progressing forward with our CDBG. Also, we're in the design phase of it.
Anything further, Ed?
No, you can go on.
All right. Thank you very much. Frank, you have any updates?
Okay, yeah, much like everybody else here, we're mainly dealing with the COVID-19 and how it affects not only trying to reopen, but future budgets. We've put all capital projects for the next fiscal year on temporary hold. We think we're okay with the ones we have already out to bid now, but anything next year, we're kind of waiting on hold to see what revenues do. Still budgeting the expenses, but knowing that we are going to wait until maybe towards December, January to put road projects or anything like that out to bid. We are working with ADOT on the Road 1 North Signal project. I don't know if ADOT will have more to say about that, but so the estimates are a little high, and I've been working with Chris if he's got advice on how to deal with that. We might tackle that later. But but that's moving along. They're actually putting up some power poles out there, so you're actually seeing work with utility relocations out there. It's really nice. And one other function we have here in Chino Valley in Public Works is we're also facilities. So on the trying to reopen, we're having trouble finding masks. So if anyone has advice on sources for masks, if you could shoot me an email offline or something and let me know, I'd appreciate any help networking with that. We're really struggling with trying to find that particular PPE for employees as we reopen things like our swimming pool and public counters in the library and things like that. So that's about it. Thanks.
So, Frank, if you would like to reach out to the Emergency Operations Center here at Yavapai County, they can try to coordinate getting you some PPEs. If you haven't tried that already, I know that there's some backlogs, but when they get stuff in, they take care of, where the needs are. And we are actually doing have a pretty good list of needs going, and it'd be good to get on that. And at the very least, they seem to have good access to PPEs for this at this time.
Thank you for that. I will follow up.
All right, Andy, you want to go next?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. For our current construction projects, the 69 Enterprise to Truewood project is progressing. Grading is still happening around the Truewood intersection right now for the minor widening we're doing on both sides there to make the median fit with the left turn lane into Truewoods on the south side. And they did pour their first part of that dowed curb from Enterprise almost all the way to Bingham on the northbound 69 side. The Government Canyon Bridge project progressing. Deck is on. They're backfilling around the abutments right now. I believe next thing that will go on there would be the bridge barriers. And so we're still hopeful that that'll be done here pretty soon. Let's see, the other one, pavement, spot repair project, 69 Main Street to Prescott Lakes Parkway. They finished the Stone Ridge Drive intersection. I believe that was last about a week and a half ago. So that came out fairly well. Got rid of that public complaint area that we've had for a while down there. And then they've been working down in Dewey Humboldt on the mill and fill piece down there. And after that, they will be doing the micro seal from Main Street up to 169, and then move up to Stone Ridge to Walker Road, and then that little piece in front of Lee Boulevard on the northbound side of 69 as well. And then as far as development projects, with the COVID and reduced revenues right now, tomorrow at the board meeting, the state engineer will be making recommendations on revisions to the current plan and the future 5-year plan. So I guess more to come on that later. Don't really have anything right now to go over on that one. And as Frank mentioned on the Road 1 North, the utilities are moving along up there for the relocates, and hopefully those will be out of the way here shortly. The other one we have in development right now is the 69 at Spring Lane intersection signal. That is currently at 95% design. So the comments are due on that one by, I believe, today on that. So progressing along on that one as well. And I believe that is all I have, Mr. Chair.
All right, very good. Thank you, Andy. John, you want to tag on there?
Sure. Yeah, I'll try to keep mine brief. We do have an MPD regional planner vacancy. I don't know if you folks knew Jason Botchin, but he moved over to Pinal County in early March. So we should be bringing on his replacement in June. He'll cover the WACOG, CAG, and Lake Havasu NPO areas. Just to kind of build on what earlier comments on the revised tentative program, I checked this morning. It is on the tentative, it's on the State Transportation Board website. It also is on the ADOT programming website. So you can see what the revisions are going to look like. I'm sure of interest is the State Route 69 capacity improvements. That shows right-of-way funding for 21, but construction is going to be moved to a later year due to fiscal constraint. That's all I can see on the page for that particular project. Road 1 North, that's listed. It shows FY21 construction. Total budget is $2,086,000. So that's doesn't look like any significant changes on that one. So anyway, that's interesting to see that. The State Transportation Board meeting, just a quick note on that. They will take comment forms up until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. The meeting starts at 9. So you can submit comment forms accessed either through the ADOT website or the State Transportation Board website. One of the initial items tomorrow will be Christine Ward, ADOT's CFO, will give an overview of the financial estimates for the coming fiscal year or two. Dallas Hammett's going to give a presentation on the priority programming strategy, and then Greg Byers will give an overview of the statewide highway construction program. So it should be a pretty interesting meeting. And again, that starts at 9 a.m. Let's see, we've got P2P, planning to program. We'll be looking at revising our activities and our matrix. The only thing that may be of note at this point is just the our October workshops will likely be pushed back a little bit, and this year we'll probably have those occurring in November. The last thing I would have, just a quick note, is ADOT's multimodal planning division is updating our MPO and COG guidelines manual. We've kicked that off yesterday internally with our consultant, WSP. They'll be completing that manual update. It's pretty extensive overhaul of the 2015 manual. We'll have some brief presentations for the COG and MPO planners meetings in June and August. And there will be opportunities for representatives of the COGS and MPOs to comment on the manual prior to its completion. So those are just a few highlights of what I had. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. I appreciate the updates.
Sure.
Norm, you want to share some updates with us?
Yeah, for Prescott Valley projects of regional significance, we have the Glassford Hill free flow right. That project came out of our SR 89A study dated March of 18. So that was one of the priority projects. I have to report, that's a partnership between the town, county, and ADOT, all three of us, but that project's progressing well. They're probably 75% done. They're got the extra lane done and they're working on the signal right now, but we anticipate that project being done by June 15th. So that was a nice funding partnership, and we appreciate ADOT and county partnering with us on that project. It's going to add quite a bit of capacity, for that corridor, and they're coming off the 89A ramp. Second project of big significance, our Sunset Lane project. That's another project partnership with Yavapai County. They're funding about 50% of the project. That project goes from Pineview Lane to Prescott East. Half the project's been already completed to full completion to Starlight from Prescott East. And the portion that's in the incorporated section, we anticipate that being done about on July 1st. So been a successful project. We're starting to see everything turn the corner. We've been lots of utility relocations, underground utility work, but we anticipate paving here in another 2 or 3 weeks and completing that project. So looking forward to that being substantially done about July 1st. And the Viewpoint Connector, that's a town road of regional significance. That's a $7.5 million project that was awarded in March to the contractor, and they're starting to move dirt. That's about a 1 mile section to connect up our town core with the Viewpoint interchange. So been lots of dirt moving out there. And actually the exciting thing is they're building a big box culvert in the Agua Fria. So it's a 9-barrel box, and they've got the floor poured and it formed up. So you can see a lot of visibility there. So those are the projects of regional significance. And likewise, I don't want to add on to the woes of our capital, but similarly, we're putting the brakes on a lot of things and, being cautious to see what revenues are going to be. That's it, Dan.
Great. Thank you, Norm. Yeah, it's similar for all of us. I think we're just all in a kind of an unknown feeling right now with regards to where we are on revenues. So, Ian, you there? You want to give us an update?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Yeah, so in Prescott, we've got the Corsair extension underway. That's out there on Wilkinson Drive. It extends Corsair down through the airport area, making it so that we can loop through the airport. We're building the roundabout. All that's under construction, and then we'll be doing a repaving of Wilkinson from just about the intersection north of Larry Caldwell interchange bridge all the way up through there. So that's ongoing. Willow Creek Road, if you've seen that, the widening has kind of begun between James Lane and then all the way up to the roundabout at 89 and Deepwell. That'll include the improvement of the curve and widening to 4 lanes all the way through there with 2 new signals as part of the development of Antelope and Trinity School out there. Then we have we're getting ready to go into our chip seal and paving projects over the summer here. We've got some stuff on West Gurley, 6th Street, various locations. And then as part of those, we're doing some striping reconfigurations, just informational. We did take over maintenance from ADOT on the recently completed 89 widening section from south of the depot roundabout all the way down to our project limits south of the interchange on 89A. So we'll be obviously maintaining the roadway, and then the new Perkins roundabout and McCurdy signal. The state will continue to control the signals and the interchange at 89 and 89A. So we have that. We have modified our CIP. Craig and the people here have gone through and adjusted and shifted some things, moved some projects around, obviously for the same reasons as everybody else. So we'll continue to watch that and see if we can reestablish some projects back in, but that has pushed and moved some things around. Beyond that, we're trying to get back to normal and do the best we can. But thanks
All right, thank you, Ian. And then I'll just touch on a few of our projects we've got going on right now. This week, we did start our Mint Wash Bridge widening project. That is taking some HERF swap money in addition to being supplemented with our regional road program funds. That's been in the works a while, so it was a little farther along than we wanted to consider it for possible delay. So notice to proceed got issued on that this past Monday. So we're going to try to do a bunch of the work under the bridge, get some new piers drilled before monsoon season sets on, and where we get a higher probability of flow and mint wash. But we're excited about that project. We got a new contractor that we've never worked with before out of Tucson called Welcome, and they so far have been very responsive on a lot of our submittals and whatnot. We're impressed so far, but just kind of getting started on construction. Perkinsville Bridge, this is out there on Perkinsville Road, east of Chino Valley on the dirt section. We had an old wood deck bridge there that had some load rating issues. So we have recently finished up a project on that. And it's close to being ready to open, except we've got some concrete issues on it. Our brakes for our cylinders have been low and have not met strength for design yet. So it's closed right now. We're still using the detour route while we're waiting for it to meet some strength, and may end up coring the deck. It just seems like the cylinders are all quite low that were poured, and if the deck coring cylinders come in low, we got some hard decisions to make. We just passed the 28-day breaks, and they're still quite a ways away from being design strength. So kind of a fun project for us to deal with right now. Luckily, it's low traffic, but I'm not allowing anybody to drive across that until we know that it's safe. So be aware. I'm also not really inclined to wait till 56 day at this point. I'd like to know really what we got in the bridge. And then Outer Loop Road, we are gearing up to do an overlay on that. Actually, a stress absorbing membrane with a rubber chip seal down first, and then an overlay on top of that. We're planning on bidding that thing out here within the next month. It has been a little neglected as of late and needs some work. So we've kept that one on the books just to make sure that we're saving the investments that we have out there and getting that thing fixed up and making it last. So that's kind of our major things around the CYMPO area. I did want to touch base a little bit on our VertiConnect project. We are currently in the 30-day public comment period for our environmental assessment that we did for that project. And that is expected to close on May 25th. But this past Monday, we did a virtual public engagement meeting. We couldn't have a normal open house and public hearing type of process that would normally be expected to meet NEPA requirements. So we did an all virtual one using Zoom, just like this. It was broadcast by Yavapai Broadcasting on cable channels, on YouTube Live, on Facebook Live, as well as broadcast over the radio. And then for those that don't have internet or even a radio, they could do a drive-in experience at the county facility over there in Camp Verde, which we set up a screen and projected onto that and had loudspeakers so people could drive in and actually watch the broadcast there. That was a little bit outside the box thinking for that drive-in. I'm a little sorry to say we had no attendees come to the drive-in. Everybody seemed to enjoy it from the confines of their home, which was really what we encouraged them to do. So taking in comments on that until later this month, and then we'll work towards getting our final environmental assessment put together and published. We're still looking to have obligation to that funding done probably in August timeframe is our guess. So that's kind of it for Yavapai County. Any further thoughts, comments before I move on in the agenda?
I got one quick, Dan.
Yes.
Just touching back on the State Transportation Board meeting. It is a Cisco WebEx call. Like John said, you can submit a form if you do want to speak. I can tell you the last meeting was really clunky. It was tough to listen to. So I did send in a comment to the board. I was really brief, basically saying, encouraging them, understanding budget difficulties, deferring projects and not removing projects completely from the plan, which is a possibility.
Mhm.
And all expansion projects, not just worrying about 69, but 17, 10, all of them. So we'll see. I'll be on the call, and hopefully it goes okay.
Okay. Well, for those that can't attend, would you mind giving a little update afterwards for those that are curious about where things stand? I
Yeah.
imagine our board would like to know as well. So, okay, very good. Anything else?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just John
Yes.
Winnis, ADOT. Yeah, I think just regarding your update on Verdi Connect, I just want to commend you and your team for getting that EA draft out for public comment by this point in time. I know that was a really large effort. Wasn't easy. You had numerous stakeholders. Not everybody is in agreement, as you know, with the project. So it really does deserve, you guys deserve a pat on the back for getting that thing to this point in the process with this compressed time frame and the difficult project that it is. So good job.
Thanks, John.
Sure.
Yeah, it feels like an accomplishment, to be honest, and has been a ton of work for not only our office, but also for Jacobs, who's been our consultant on board for the EA. And we're working on a few other loose ends that would need to be tied up here before we get some kind of decision on it this summer. So we'll see. Fingers are crossed. Everybody's pretty confident, but definitely is a monumental effort. And you're right, expedited makes it that much more difficult, as you know. So thank you.
Right. No question. Well done.
All right, moving on to item number 4. Review, discussion, and possible action to recommend approval of a scope of work to issue a request for quotes for preparation of a phasing plan for the transit implementation plan utilizing CARES Act funds at 100% federal share in order to provide additional information to CYMPO member agencies for future discussions regarding the development of a regional transit system. Chris?
All right.
Dan.
So Daniel's going to pop up the scope here in a second. Here we go.
Should be up. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully you all can see that now. Okay. So Jill Dusenberry's on the call, ADOT Transit, in case we have any additional questions or some guidance here. But we've been working with Jill extensively and Sarah Allred at ADOT as well. The concept for this item is to, like you said, look at potential phasing of the project with the utilization of the CARES Act funding, which is 100%, and seeing if we can, how long we can stretch those funds to get service going. But before we just jump in and start doing a service, you have to understand that the world of transit has changed as much as the world of public works and roads. So trying to address new needs, new trends, and just trying to nail that down so that the Prescott Council and the Town of Prescott Valley Council can have all the accurate information before they, actually, make a decision on, yes, we're going to form a joint power organization, or, you know what, you didn't answer our questions well enough, we're going to stop. So this is an opportunity to hopefully get as much information as possible to the elected officials so they can make an informed decision. The plan on this would be we get this done. If unless you have any changes on here that you want to see, take it to the board on the 20th, have the board take action to have us be able to move forward and get them to authorize the chair to sign a professional services agreement and hopefully have all of this information ready for a potential joint Prescott and Prescott Valley Council meeting that could be sometime at the end of August or maybe beginning of September, depending on how quickly we can turn this information around. I know the mayor of Prescott has expressed a desire to do that so that all the elected officials are hearing all the information at the same time, and maybe it helps answer some of their questions. And I believe Mayor Palguda is also supportive of that idea. So if you want, we can kind of roll through the document here. Daniel, if you can scroll down a little bit. Yeah, so looking at developing a 5-year phasing plan, identifying those trends that I mentioned, starting as a demand response service only, and working towards our plan that was 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, and that's not realistic to start today. Everybody is agreeing on that. But the goal is to still have the overall system look like what the stakeholders developed through that very extensive process. One of the keys is that I've been hearing question-wise from the elected side is that being able to run this thing for 3 years with the CARES Act funds, and then looking at the years 4 and 5 and what the impact would be if it continues on through that time frame, what the financial burden would be. And that's where the 5-year budget comes in. And Daniel, I think around there. Yeah, keep going down. There we go. And then also being able to pull together some information, again, for the elected officials, what is the economic impact of the system? Based on how we're developing this phasing, who's it going to help? We're targeting, people that are going to need it first: veterans, seniors, ADA compliant or eligible folks at the get-go, because they're more transit dependent right now than others who may have chosen to take transit in the past. Ridership for most systems is down somewhere around 75 to 80% because people either aren't working or they're doing the stay at home. And as we reboot our economy, some of that's going to come back. But the anticipation is that not all, especially not all at once. So I guess with that, maybe I could ask Jill if she has anything she wants to add to this part of the discussion.
Not really, Chris. Good morning, everyone. This is a unique opportunity with the CARES Act funding to partner between the state and the MPO. It is not normal in Arizona for the state to pursue 5307 funding. That program is a small urban funding program for your area, and FTA designs it with really the focus of a local government grant recipient. So my staff and I have been working with Chris and his staff, as well as the Sun Corridor MPO, because they're in a similar situation where they have access to this funding, but they were close to pulling the trigger to be able to have approvals to go forward and spend the money directly. So the approach that we've talked about is what is the new transit? And since you are starting a service, I think this is the best first step to reanalyze what you can start, how you can deliver that so that you're being safe to the employees that operate the service as well as riders, but assisting the community with residents' needs. So we're supportive of the approach. Once we continue to move further, ADOT would submit an application on your area's behalf. And that is contingent upon FTA being able to fund ADOT's cost in transit to do that work, in addition to the planning activities that you're talking about. So we're in support. We feel it's a good approach and a strategy to go forward, and excited about the opportunity of starting a more comprehensive transit service in Prescott and Prescott Valley than the limited service that Yavapai Regional Transit's providing right now. So I'm happy to answer any questions. We make a commitment to continue to work with CYMPO and all of you to keep taking the steps forward towards this activity in the future. So questions are great if you have any.
Yeah, I'll throw one on here. And Norm emailed me yesterday, and Jill, thank you for getting back to me this morning. Norm had asked a question because the town council has invested in partnering to provide vouchers for rides. And Norm had asked, would CARES Act funding be eligible for that type of activity? And I'll summarize, Jill, but tell me if I'm wrong. Voucher programs can be part of a transit system, but it can't be a standalone. It's similar to what the van pool program is. You can have a van pool program under a 5307, but it can't be if that's the only thing. So if you have a system running, yeah, we could include things like the town's voucher program. That's, I would say, fairly common when you think, Jill.
Yeah, it would be, again, FTA looks at, you must have transit with the 5307 funds available for everyone in your community. So voucher programs typically focus on certain populations, whether they be elderly or disabled. In most cases, I'm not saying your program does. Van pools typically focus on just people that need employment. FTA's concern is that you have a comprehensive program. So as we're proceeding, I think there's a wonderful opportunity to roll some voucher assistance into the service that starts to be delivered, but it is not an immediate that we could put in the application for FTA to fund the voucher program right now. We have to have some timing outlined as to when a comprehensive transit service would be offered, and voucher could be a piece of it, as well as the van pool that you've been talking about with the mine and the county jail. So okay. All positives.
Okay, so my question, and Norm, maybe you could jump on too. Do we want to include that in the phasing plan? I think it makes sense to evaluate. I mean, the town's operating it today. We should be able to look at how we can leverage, that into the future as part of the phasing. Does that sound okay? Or Norm, did you have other idea?
Well, my comment all along, Chris, there's people out of work. And of course, there's nobody, when we do see some turnaround, we have a system that's working now. It could work for the whole Quad City area because it's an existing program that NACOG knows how to run. My concern is actual delivery of service. This whole thing is a stimulus due to the COVID. Why wouldn't we want to immediately deliver that recovery? And it's in place now. So, obviously I'm a little frustrated if we have to wait for a planning document for a year. Demand response is what the NACOG vouchers is. It will address, I don't disagree. What it does do is it targets, particularly not the whole community, but it targets the transit dependent community, rides to employment, rides for basic services, doctor's appointments, and the like. So I'd like to see if funding could be, that's really, I would hope, the innovativeness we want to do is let's turn this around quick. Let's get the rides to the people that need it. That's the end of my comments.
All I can share is FTA have guidelines as what can be funded, and a standalone voucher program has been shared with us that is not fundable standing alone. So it does not serve the needs of the entire public in the design that FTA wants. So we'll take another look back in the circular, but it's very difficult to, I don't disagree with your comments, but if you want funding, there are certain guidelines you have to follow to access that funding. So we'll pose the question again to FTA. This is not an ADOT decision. This is from the funding source. But when we posed the question the last time about Vanpool and we threw in voucher and some other programs from some other areas, FTA said, no, it was not fundable as a standalone. So we're kind of stuck with the guidance that they provide, but we can ask again.
So Norm, I mean, I know we're all trying to cut costs right now, but is there any appetite for the town to continue its voucher program as it is done in the interim until this money becomes online for the development of this transit system?
Yeah, my understanding is, Dan, we'll continue the system starting July 1st. You've already passed it through the council.
Okay.
So yes, we're actually delivering a program that, can't say it again, or not enough. It's the transit dependent communities who it serves. And I look for ways to make this work. The scope of this particularly isn't a transit system, it's recovery, immediate recovery. That's what we're supposed to be about. So obviously, I would thought there'd be some relaxing of the rules of what it's available for. But I can't imagine personally that this recovery, we're going to be out of it before we actually implement a program. I'm not one personally that believes we're not going to rebound quickly, but we need to get, it's like any disaster. You need to get relief there now, not talk about it in a year plan. This is a disaster, guys. Let's get that need where it's does some good. But I understand.
In my experience in going through NEPA recently, it's become clear that even though we're in a disaster, it still takes an act of Congress to change the rules. And so relying on Congress to make decisions to change the rules right now is not a good thing to be waiting on. It's totally different issue that I've been, we asked for feedback with regards to this build grant funding. If there was an expectation that we would be able to postpone a hearing and have a formal hearing, and all we got back was crickets. So don't hold your breath. That's my advice.
I think we're stuck with what it is, like, Jill said, but, she'll go back and look and see if there's a way that we can tap into it. But I guess for right now, knowing that, it would have to be part of the system and can't exist before, are you guys okay with making the change to include the evaluation of the voucher program as part of the phasing? And then we can add that and present that to the board.
I have no objection to including it as part of the development of the system. I think that is just a reasonable effort to undertake. Now, before we go on to other discussions, does anybody else have thoughts or questions on that?
I do, Dan, if I can interject my comments.
Absolutely, Norm.
For town of Prescott Valley, we're going to take this CARES Act on whether the town would be willing to accept the funding to our work study on June 4th. So we'll get direction from our council on whether or not the town would be interested in accepting the CARES Act funding in accordance with this outline of what the funding would mean. As staff, our continued concern will be, once the 3 years is up, and identify sustainable funding source. That's never been identified. And I guess my biggest question is, who's going to run the program? I do understand that ADOT's going to assist with the planning, but I don't see in the document that who's going to run the program and administrate this.
That's a good question, Norm. So, and our conversations that Jill and I have had, and including Sun Quarter. So there's going to be multiple phases of the planning. So this one would just be looking at, updating the numbers, what the phasing could be. And then the next phase, once we get past both councils saying, yeah, let's move forward. The next document would be assistance in forming the JPO and establishing all of that. We don't want to go too far down the line in the event that the councils say, you know what, we thought it was a good idea, but we're going to back away. It would be a big giant waste to do a whole bunch of planning and develop joint power organization documentation and direct recipient documentation. If they don't want to move, if they change their mind and say we don't want to, we don't want to do it, so that will come. It's just this one is to try to get the cost and a phase and economic benefits of what it would look like, so we can answer those questions. We won't have anything that we'd be able to answer any of the questions for your council on June 4th. That's not going to happen. We may not even have a professional services agreement signed by then. So I would say if you want me to attend on that, I don't know if you're doing your meetings virtually or how you're doing those, I'd be happy to try to answer some. But I think without the results of this study, it's going to be difficult to address any of their concerns in June. By the end of August, I think we'd be able to do that. So let me know what you want to do. If you want me to attend that meeting, if you do keep it on there, I'd be happy to, and we'll try to answer as best we can, but I would definitely won't have all the answers by the June 4th.
And I guess, Chris, we talked initially, the board would approve this scope to send it out, or could we delay it till the June executive board meeting? Since we are kind of getting things framed, would that be any problem? I put that out for the TAC.
It just delays that potential joint meeting. I know that hasn't been decided. It's definitely been encouraged or thought of by the mayors, but I don't know what that takes for each council to approve that. I think we can go ahead and move forward with this for the 20th. I mean, the longer we wait, just the longer the back end is going to be. And if you have funding that's sitting out there with no expiration date, like Jill says this frequently, that makes us nervous. Because the longer it sits there, the more likely Congress is saying, well, you're not using your money. I really would like to have that back now. Thanks. And then it's gone. So I guess
Thank you, Chris. I made my recommendations. One other thing, Chris, while we're on it, can we get the final draft document for the transit implementation plan? We approved that at the April meeting.
Allison is in contact with Bethany, and we should have that in the very, very near future.
Yeah, and similarly, if we can get a thumb drive or however we want to send it. And I do know it was final. I just like to get the draft off, and people be referencing that document. It'd be nice to get the final document that we reference, because I think it'd be it's a great resource for what we're trying to move forward with here.
Yeah, we'll get that out to everybody as soon as we get that. So hopefully that'll be today.
Hey, Chris, this is Billy Orr. Can I speak?
It's up to Mr. Chair.
Of course.
Oh,
Billy.
thank you, Dan. I guess I just wanted to say I really appreciate that Jill's on the phone and that ADOT is working with us so well and closely on this. And I think this is a huge opportunity for CYMPO, for the town of Prescott Valley, and for the city of Prescott and the surrounding areas. I will tell you, it's one of the silver linings that's in this CARES Act. And I just appreciate it so much. So I just want to stay positive. Let's look at what we can do and let's do what we can to serve. I love the idea of working the system that's already in place into this so that one doesn't have to go away for the other one to exist. And we can just make it all better for everybody in our communities. And so I just want to encourage us all to be very positive, to go forward, to see what we can do. We've wanted to do something with this for years, and here is our opportunity. So again, I just want to thank you to Jill and for CYMPO for being willing to take this on and let's make this work. And so, but I appreciate Norm's comments, and I do think it's something that we should work in and make it even better. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I guess I had a question on the scope. I'm no transit expert, but I know we've employed some. And did Nelson Nygaard help with this scope at all, or did it all come through Jill and Sarah, or did we just develop it in-house? Can't hear you, Chris. Sorry.
We developed it primarily in-house. Sorry, I got landscapers outside my window. Trying to spare you from leaf blowers. We designed it primarily in-house, and then we've shared it and made tweaks here or there. But you know, Nelson Nygaard would be one of the firms that we send it to. Obviously, Bethany, knowing the region and having worked on the plan, you know, obviously I can't guarantee that that's going to be her. But we do have to send it out for quotes to at least 3 people or 3 firms, and we will do that for sure.
All right.
Dan, can I ask again? Chris, can you comment again? You've talked with the mayors, and what's been their take? There's going to be, what, a joint meeting? I didn't follow that fully. Talk about this issue.
Mayor Mingarelli actually presented this idea to have a joint meeting of both councils together at the same time. Obviously, whenever we're allowed to do that. The original thought he was thinking in May, but in order to answer everybody's questions, do the study, get the phasing in, get the money, figured out economic impacts so we can answer all those questions. And then at that meeting, the councils could then vote independently of each other. Yeah, we want to move forward with the formation of a JPO or not. That's been the concept. I don't know how solid that is. I've talked with Chairman Orr about that several times, and I believe, and maybe she can correct me if I'm wrong, that the Mayor Prescott's talked with the Mayor of Prescott Valley potentially about this happening, and I think he's open to the idea. That's been kind of the target, is to try to have that into August, maybe September. So.
All right. Any further questions there, Norm?
Yeah, and this scope of work answers quite a few of the questions. I just don't follow that. So I'll have to do a little more research. I don't see why sending this RFP out for approval. You know, we really need to get direction, I think, from the 2 major players that's looking at significant funding, Prescott and town of Prescott Valley.
So Chris, I can speak to the meeting that the mayors have agreed to have. Not so much to the funding, because that's up to the councils, but we have wanted to come together. Everybody seems to be positive to do that and to listen to the ideas that are going to be suggested. So Norm, I just think that's, again, it's that part of, here's an opportunity. Do we want to take this opportunity and run with it for our cities and for our communities? So I think that's the important part of having this meeting, is that we all hear the same information together. I've talked to Mayor Palguda. I've talked to, of course, Mayor Mingarelli about it. They both seem to be on board and like this idea. And so again, it's an opportunity, and why would we turn this opportunity down? So I don't know if you have any other questions about the meeting. We wanted to do it a little earlier, but it would be kind of, you know, not make sense to do something without being able to answer all the questions. And so they both understand that. I talked with both of them personally about, let's put this in August or maybe even September until we have some of the details, and so that we can answer and it not be on rumor or innuendos, but it be on facts.
All right, Chair. Further discussion? All right, so I believe there's been discussion about including in the scope of work the possibility of wrapping the voucher programs in. So any motion would need to include that in for a recommendation. If there is a desire to move this forward to the executive board, I will accept motions. If not, then we can always table it until after the town has had some discussions on it, and perhaps that will spur forward some additional discussion.
Mr. Chair, this is Frank. I'm not sure how involved Chino Valley is in this, but for the sake of getting it on the record, I would propose the motion with the changes that you discussed. If that's acceptable, if Allison understands that.
Allison, does that make sense?
Just to confirm, so we make changes regarding the addition of the voucher program. Is that right?
I think that's correct. Is that what you were discussing, Dan?
That is correct. The addition, amending the scope with respect to including the analysis of including the voucher program in a proposed system.
Yes, so the motion would be to approve the presented scope with the amendment to include the voucher program.
And just for
And
clarification.
authorize request for quotes.
Okay, just for clarification, Norm, that is what you would like to see included in as well. Not necessarily asking for a second from you.
Yes, thank you, Dan.
Yes, okay. All right.
And this is Ian. I second that.
All right, very good. So we have a motion on the floor by Frank Marbury of Chino Valley, a second from Ian Mattingly from the city of Prescott. Any further discussion before I take a roll call vote? Okay, all right. So with that, I will go down the list here and ask for a vote on regarding the motion. We'll start with Vice Chair Marbury.
Yes.
Member Hanks.
Yes.
Member Davis.
Yes.
Member Mattingly.
Yes.
Member Wennis.
Yes.
Member Roth.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes on this to make it unanimous, please. All right, thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to move on to item number 5 here, review, discussion, and possible action of the fiscal year 2021 Unified Planning Work Program, AKA the UPWAP.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Oh, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Dan, I got a big budget meeting I had to go to at 9 o'clock. Boyd will speak on our behalf for Prescott Valley.
I understand. Thank you very much, Norm.
Thank you, Dan.
I just pulled up the work program here. And you're gonna have to scroll down, Daniel, to find the highlighted portions because I don't have the document for me. Unfortunately, the internet is.
No, just listen to what they say. That's okay. It's up to the board.
All right. I don't know how long the guy with the leaf blower wants to stay outside of my window, but hope you're all enjoying it. So what we've done is to address the CARES Act funding. We've added a new work element on that would address the planning activities, identifying the dollar amounts. We have also communicated the dollar amounts with Yavapai County as our fiscal agent. So Phil does have that as part of the county budget draft. So it is accounted for there. And so Daniel, keep going down. Here we go. This is also, so in addition to our 5307 CARES Act funds, because we do have a mobility management grant with ADOT under 5311, we were also awarded $87,670. Again, 100% for mobility management activities. And we do coordinate that with NACOG. We have an agreement with them to mobility management on a county-wide basis. And so we would anticipate using funds with NACOG for that purpose. So we we started having some discussions about how we're going to handle that. But we just wanted to make sure that it was identified in here under our mobility management program. And then let's see, what else? We do. I think that's it.
I think that's it, yes.
All right, if I may, briefly, Chris, for those of you that are not speaking, if you could please mute, put your phone on mute so that we've got some background noise coming through, please. Thank you. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so with those changes, we would ask, unless you see the need for anything additional, that the TAC consider recommend moving this forward to the executive board for approval. So,
Chris, when we do amendments to the Unified Work Program Plan, is there a desire to like kind of update it throughout? I know, it's a 2-year plan, so there are things that were there a year ago that obviously are out of date. They're missing, activities that we've pursued in the current FY. Is there a desire to include that along with updates, or just make the small amendments in regards to the funding here?
Yeah, we could consider those. The thing that jumps out immediately is the rosters that are in there and correct. They're the ones from the previous year, so we can make those. If you'd like to include any other changes, I would say just add it into the motion, and we'll make sure we get those updated.
Yeah, so like, and I don't know, I mean, it's maybe, I don't want to make this too large of an effort for you, but we have, we have proposed activities, we have things that we've done, such as the RTP, the transit implementation plan that, are kind of, in there as, kind of proposals, and we're a lot farther along on those, if not adopted. And then we also had some proposed activities for 21 that now are being considered, such as the Robert Road TI and the 69-169 intersection and things like that. And I didn't know if there was value in, if we're making a change, that we kind of go through and just hit on some of the high points of what we've done and what we have in the pipeline as well.
Yeah, we can do that. Our original discussion was on the roster part. We didn't see, I think we talked with John about, do we have to do it? And, do we really have to do it? No. But does it make sense? Yeah. So we can go through and update those things and then have them ready for the board meeting. Okay. That's not a problem.
I think if we're making amendments, I think it would be intelligent.
Since we're here.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, one question or comment?
Yes, please.
Is it okay to jump in here?
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
Oh, yeah. Just regarding the amendments, I have been having some discussions with Allison at CYMPO regarding these work plan amendments, and I think your approach is good. It's kind of easier to roll in multiple changes on a work plan amendment into one effort. It doesn't mean we can't do multiple smaller efforts, but if we're doing an amendment that needs council approval or board approval, then great. Let's try to put as many things in there as possible. So we just maybe make it one effort. But it doesn't mean we can't do future amendments or revisions. But let's just try to kind of economize our effort and put it all in one if we can. So that's just a thought, but it should work well. I think your approach that we're talking about here should be fine. I just wanted to add that.
Okay.
So we can go in and update the member roster, clarify the completion of the RTP, the transit plan, all
right.
that. We can do that.
Now,
is there something else you saw?
I noticed that on work element section 200, we had regional planning projects. We had a list on there of potential future planning studies. And I did not see the 69 and 169 intersection on that. I think it might be appropriate to add that since we're moving forward with that in the near future, presumably.
Yeah, we actually have our list of 60 projects
Okay.
from the RTP, so we can replace this,
See that, yeah.
this portion of the document and put in the one of all of our 60 projects we identified in the planning study.
Right, and then under that same section, we had some FY21 proposed activities and, you know, it's a generic implement recommendations of the 2045 plan, and maybe we make mention of the two sort of selection reports that we're proceeding with. And then maybe add a 2020 accomplishments section there for the RTP, and whatnot. So that kind of, I think those were like the major ones that I saw in flipping through this, other than the roster changes that you've already mentioned. So
okay.
With that, I would be happy to make a motion to recommend making those changes as discussed. Allison, if you like, I will try to formally state those in a motion, or I can just say as discussed.
Discussed will work for me.
All right, very good. All right, thank you. Saved me a little breath this morning. So with that, I'll make a motion. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, any further discussion? Hearing none. All right, I will make a motion for pushing this forward with those changes to the executive board for those updates to the Unified Planning Work Program. And I would like a second on that, please.
Second.
I'll second that. Number one, a second.
What was that, Ed first? It's tough. Looking for things to light up here.
Yeah. Either way.
It's
Either way,
close.
I seconded or either one.
Allison, you pick. All right. And again, we will do a roll call vote on this. I will go down the roster here. Unless there's any further discussion. I don't believe there is. But speak now if there is. Hearing none. All right. Vice Chair Marbury.
Yes.
Thank you. Member Hanks.
Yes.
Member Davis stepped away, I believe. Boyd, are you there? Does Boyd have a?
Yes, Dan, I'm here, and I'll vote yes on that.
All right, very good. Thank you. Member Mattingly.
Yes.
Member Wennis.
Yes.
Member Roth.
Yes.
And as chair, I will also vote yes. So that's unanimous. All right. I'm going to move on to item number 6, review, discussion, possible action of the current FY 2024 Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program, the MTIP, and discussion of future planning studies for FY 21. Mr. Bridges.
Daniel's pulling it up here so y'all can see it. Okay, so we've made a couple modifications here, again, related to CARES Act funding to reflect the Mobility Management 5311 here in FY20, the 87,000. And then we've identified additional CARES Act funding as part of the planning process that we detailed before. We think the phasing schedule is pretty straightforward. It's mostly a technical evaluation. And we think it could be done for a relatively lower cost. The formation of the JPO and direct recipient and all that is going to be much more involved. So we've identified $15,000 that would be eligible activity under the CARES Act to do the phasing study right now. And then moving into the next year, once we get, clearer direction from the councils and they actually vote on moving forward with the formation of all those things, we've set aside 250,000 for now. These things can obviously change in the future as we need them. I don't know if the 15,000 will come back a quote for higher. We could identify that as something higher, but the important part is we do have some 5305D planning dollars that are not set aside for anything right now. That in my thinking is we could use those as a backup, but we would like to submit for them under the CARES Act, so it's 100% and not having to look at trying to generate matching funds. But if for some reason this whole thing fell apart and we still needed to pay a consultant for that, we do have a backup of 5305D for that. Okay, Daniel, can you?
That's
Yes.
eligible, Chris? Okay, all right.
Yes, it is. Daniel, can you go to the main part of the tip with the road projects?
Sorry.
Hopefully I sent that to you.
I don't think you sent me the tip.
Okay,
damn
can
tip.
you, while I start talking, try to pull it up off of the website? And
Sure.
then we could just share it from there. Okay, so the other discussion as part of this item is what are our future planning projects looking like, right? And so we have that list of the 60 projects and moving forward, we have the on-call process that we can use. We can also move forward outside of that if it's a larger dollar amount. So currently, we have in fiscal year 21 set aside all of our SPR, so $125,000 for planning studies as identified in the 2045 plan. The other thing that we have is we have $370,000 parked on State Route 69, and it's listed as construction dollars. But Andy, and I don't know if John is Latier still on, but Andy can help me out on this. We've been notified and had a discussion that there looks like there needs to be additional design dollars added. We're trying to clarify what does that actually mean, but we can pull it out of that 370. So I don't have the answer for it unless Andy has a answer on that. But the last discussion we had with Vivian at ADOT project manager is that 100,000 would cover the design, additional design activities. There was a retaining wall that had to be redone. But during that conversation, she kept going on and she was using a number of $470,000 of additional design. Best we can figure is you don't typically have a 50% increase on a design project. And that she was talking about the right-of-way acquisition and utility work that is not part of our contract. It's a different thing, but I still don't have the official answer with Alvin yet on that, unless Andy has it. And maybe I'll just stop right now and let Andy jump in and talk about that a little bit more.
Andy, you got any feedback on that?
Actually, this is the first I've heard of it, so I will have to do some digging into that myself.
All right.
Okay. So outside of that, if we pull 100,000 off of that 370 and park it there for additional design, I would look at the balance of those funds, whatever it ends up being, as an opportunity for us to look at additional planning projects. And that could be, we don't have to decide it today. We do have flexibility, but just to introduce the topic, we could pull from the list of the 60 projects, which Daniel, why don't you go ahead and pull that one up real quick, and identify some multiple of those that we can move forward with just how we did with Robert Road TI and 69-169. Or we could even look at a bigger State Route 69 corridor study that would address activity, adaptive signal technologies, what would it take to widen it in certain places. We haven't done a lot of studying on 69, and through our public hearing process of the 2045 plan, the public was very vocal about wanting improvements on 69. So that's an opportunity, but just to throw that out for the TAC for discussion. And if you want, we could actually set up another meeting, maybe just a working group if you want, and kind of hold off on that until June. But the immediate need is to add the CARES Act funding now, as we have on the screen.
Hold on a second.
I think it's a great discussion to have, and whether people want to just maybe make some suggestions today for food for thought for the future, or if they want to, keep their mouths closed. I mean, my thought was if there was some value in having discussion today, just to get the creative juices flowing a little bit, maybe. And I certainly have my ideas, and looking at this list that was provided. A lot of these I think are, not necessarily necessitating a planning study or an alternative selection report or something like that, like we're doing for these others. But if there's value in it on a few of them, I certainly don't object to pursuing that. There's certainly, as has been stated before, as a planning organization, I think there's some responsibility of CYMPO to keep some of these ideas in the forefront and keep them moving forward, even if it's with a fairly small alternative selection report type of analysis and coming up with a cost estimate, because I think a lot of these we're dealing with cost estimates that are, ancient for all intents and purposes.
Right.
One of the ones that I, think is of value considering at the very least, that would help a lot in our regional or CYMPO area traffic is the Sundog connector. And that is kind of, I know that's a little bit of a hot button issue with some people, but it is definitely something that can provide a lot of opportunity, I think, and may warrant a little more in-depth look than has been done in the past. And I would probably make a suggestion that one could stand to have an alternative selection analysis done on it at the very least. I know it's a big tick. We're up in there in the same range as our Robert Road TI cost range, but it also has a big bang for the buck with regards to volumes and assisting the movement of traffic. So
yeah.
Hey, Dan, this is Boyd again. I'd like to throw one out there as well, just due to development moving forward. And that's the Great Western north of 89A. We've got development in the county out there now within a mile of that corridor. And I've heard rumor of some big stuff in the city of Prescott too. So we need to, if we're looking at development out in that area now, we need to start looking hard again, or at least dust off that, 2008 study that determined that corridor for Great Western tying into Road 5 South and ultimately into 89. So I just, as development is obviously looking like it's going out that direction, we need to keep that in mind as well. And I would recommend that we start with this group, start discussing that again. You know, I brought it to Norm's attention a few weeks ago, and he said he was going to bring it up, but he ended up having to leave. So
Sure.
I'd just like to bring that up for at least, you know, get it out there in everybody's mind. I don't know if Ian has more information on what's going on their end, but like I said, that Weatherby Ranch is within a mile of that corridor, so.
Understood. Any other thoughts from the TAC?
Oh, this is Frank. I would just add on that note about the Great Western that 5 South is not even 5 South anymore. It's Callanich Avenue.
I'm sorry, I did not get your passcode. Please try again.
Someone's asked, I'm having issues with the phone, but, so yeah, I would agree with Boyd on that.
I'm sorry, I did not get your passcode. Please try again.
Anything further, Frank?
Technology is awesome.
All right. Any
I'm
other?
sorry, I did not get your passcode. Call back when you can remember your passcode. Goodbye.
Don't know who that one was. That's Frank.
I don't either. Yeah.
May have lost them.
I don't know. The one I was gonna say was the dual on-ramp. Left turns off of 89 onto 89E. If you're doing southbound to eastbound. That would be one to consider, alternative selection or evaluation of that. It was identified in the 2040 as a immediate need, and also again in the 2045 as a high priority. So we did, it was put up on the screen, the list of all the projects and their scoring. If you wanted to kind of flip through there, if you had particular projects, and Dan, you said, you know, you've got it in front of you. So, but that dual on-ramp one was one that I was going to suggest to the group.
So I'm trying to look here at what, which one that is on the list, Chris. We have an ID for it.
Dan, you're going to have to scroll down to find the dual on-ramp.
The dual left.
AS
Sorry,
is the
E9CI.
ID on that, I believe.
Is that AS? Is
Yeah.
that the one? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
There you go.
Yeah. And that one is certainly within reason with a big bang for a buck on the score as well. So
Yeah.
that looks like a good one to consider. All right. Any other thoughts on, I guess I'm inclined to say that we move the MTIP forward with the CARES Act changes, and then we consider these for maybe a more formal discussion in a future month, if that's okay with the TAC. You know, Norm not being here, and no offense, Boyd, but I certainly want Norm's involvement on this as well. That's kind of, you know, some high level planning type discussion.
I agree wholeheartedly.
And-
I'm
and
just the guinea pig all of a sudden this morning.
Understood.
And Boyd, Norm did send us Great Western yesterday, so it did float that out.
I'm sorry, say that again, Chris.
Norm did send the Great Western idea to me late yesterday.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm glad you brought it up.
All right. Any further thoughts or discussion? Anything from Dewey Humboldt, Frank, or Ed, I mean?
No, I think I'd like to see us discuss the project list on its own merit and own meeting. I agree with moving the CARES Act forward within your motion.
All right, very good.
So,
Gentlemen from ADOT, do you have thoughts? John and Andy?
No further comment from John, no.
Okay.
Good discussion.
Ian, do you have any thoughts?
No, not at this point. I support the Great Western comments, and then we'll just talk about it later.
Okay, all right. Andy, sorry I cut you off there.
No problem. I think that just as a clarification, the ID for that dual 89 89A on ramp is actually AO.
AO, sorry, not AS.
Yeah. AS was the 89A off ramp, dual left to northbound 89.
Got it.
Oh, okay.
That one also scored well.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. Okay, with that, if there's no further discussion, I will be accepting a motion in regards to the MTIP with the CARES update.
So moved.
Mr. Chair, this is Frank. If you can hear me?
I can.
One question for Chris, and I think it might be for a future meeting, but on the Road 1 North signal issues, is that for probably a future meeting, Chris, to deal with the changes there?
Yeah, I think we have an issue of, and so everybody on the TAC knows, there's anticipated costs for Road 1 North. The town is considering adding an additional 125,000, and ADOT would also add another 125, but the town council has not voted on that yet. Frank could clarify, but I think that's later, maybe next week, or even later in the month, where they're going to consider that. But once that decision's made, we will need to modify the TIP to add those funds. We could add them now. My concern would be if the town council says no, then we're showing that they've said yes. So I think we could save that for June.
Correct. It's May 26th is the council meeting.
Okay.
So we'll put that off. I just wanted to make sure.
All right, thank you. Any further thoughts? Question?
But I do have a question for the group, though. So moving the discussion about future projects, we do have our meeting set up for selection for the 2 scopes of work that we have out for next Thursday, I believe at 10 o'clock. We could add this as an agenda item to that for discussion. We can review the 2 scopes and then we can move into additional discussion if you all have time. If you're pressed for time that day, we can look at scheduling a different date, or we can just have it on the regular TAC agenda for June. So let me know what you want and we will make it happen.
I can't speak for everyone else, but I think I can make that work next week if we want to have some more discussion on it.
As far as I'm concerned, I think next week would be good if everybody has time.
Okay.
All right, I'm still looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to move this item forward on the CARES Act portion.
How about a second?
Second.
Is that you, Andy?
Yes, it was.
All right, so we have a a motion to recommend approval of the MTIP program with inclusion of the CARES information in it. Motion was made by Ed Hanks, seconded by Member Roth. Any further discussion before we call for a vote by a roll call? All right, Vice Chair Marbury, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Member Hanks?
Yes.
Member Davis, Boyd, are you there for him?
Yes.
Thank you. Member Mattingly?
Yes.
Member Winnis?
Yes.
Member Roth?
Yes.
And chair votes yes as well. Thank you all. As we're at the end of our agenda, I will adjourn this meeting unless somebody has any burning issues they need to discuss, which is not on the agenda. All right, thank you all very much. And TAC members, we'll see you a week from today to talk about our 2 projects that we're reviewing proposals on. So thank you all.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Everybody.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks all.